Hi, everyone. I'm so lucky to be here with the wonderful Marilla Wex, my very wonderful friend who I met about 16 years ago on a film set in Toronto, Canada. She's originally from the UK. I didn't know her. We were improvising together and I could not stop laughing. I kept breaking character going, who is this woman? Yes, Marilla, I asked, you guys might know her already from her stage, screen, comedy stages, all of the above. She has so many accomplishments on television as a voice artist, as a comedian, that I asked her what credits she wanted me and awards, because she's also got lots of awards. And she said she just wanted to say that she's been a professional performer her entire adult life and started concentrating on voice work 6 years ago and has never looked back. Welcome, Marilla. So happy that you're here to share your story with us.
Thank you for having me.
You've done so many things and you've been so accomplished at so many things. What gave you the idea? Like, how and why did you want to start doing voice work from home in the first place?
So like you said in the intro, I've done everything, and improv, stage, TV, film, voice work was my first job. And a friend of mine, we ended up having a coffee and talking about other people we knew who had home recording booths. And we were like, what would that take to accomplish? And this was like, I want to say 6 or 7 years ago. And my friend, who shall remain nameless, did nothing. And I had the big push for me was I was working behind the camera on a very big CW show. And I just booked an on-screen role in a small Canadian comedy show. And so I'd given my notice on the big show, and then the small show got pushed by 3 months, and which meant I missed the beginning of the next season of the big show. So suddenly everything got very real, and I'd been on a very big paycheck for the TV show I've been working on, and suddenly I was going down to zero with 3 months of nothing. So I had lost out potential earnings of around, I want to say 20 to 30 grand. And so I panicked and I was like, right, the stakes are very high for me right now. I need to actually figure this out. And so I spent a month just going down internet rabbit holes, finding out how to build a booth and build my business. And then that's where it started. And then it took my friend who'd been talking to me about doing the same thing over a year and a half to do it, by which point I was making 6 figures and he was very cross with me.
Oh, but you're so generous though, because you do, as we'll learn, you do share everything you know and everything you worked so hard to find in that month and more, right? Because I know some of it took longer than that. But how much did that very first booth, you were running on empty, it sounds like, because you were about to lose this chunk of money. How much did it cost to build that first booth?
Honestly, it was about 500 Canadian. So it wasn't a massive outlay, and I didn't get crappy mics, or I was lucky. I had in this very basement over there behind that wall that you can't see, there's quite a large closet, and it had it wasn't finished. It was just stud walls and a cement floor. And I figured this is perfect because I can create some insulation. I can create some sound insulation, and I can create a booth in here, because I'd seen a great video online about the best place in your house to have a booth is in the center of your basement, if you have one, because it's away from all the exterior walls. So I generally can't even hear leaf blowers, which is amazing.
Oh.
And so that's where I started. So yeah, I didn't do it for like super cheap, and I still managed to do a decent job that got approved as a broadcast quality booth for $500. So, and like I say, I didn't like cheap out on any of the stuff. So there are cheaper ways of doing it that you can get away with, but I wanted to kind of do it as properly as possible to begin with, and then just be able to start hustling.
Listen, $500 to build a 6-figure business. That's really cheap. I'm sorry.
No, I didn't know it was going to be a six-figure business. Like my first year I made like 30 grand, and then it tripled in the next year, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll get a new mic.
Oh my God. No, that's such a great story. Oh, some of your students have what are some good places in the house to build a studio? Sorry, to build a booth.
Honestly, it depends on if you live in like an apartment building. If you live next to the furnace room in an apartment building, I'm going to say you're SOL, because you have no control over that. I mean, behind me, you can see behind that cupboard is the electrical panel where I can physically switch off the furnace for this entire house. I live in 2 floors of a detached house. So during the winter, I make sure that it's never off for more than 2 hours if I'm doing audiobooks or something like that that's long form, because otherwise my neighbors will cry and my husband will cry. So generally speaking, you want somewhere where you can create mass. This is what my friend Tim Ratledge, the sound engineer, always says, is you want bulk, you want duvets, you want blankets, you want to build yourself the best blanket fort you can build. I mean, ideally, if money's no object, you build a room inside a room, because then you've also got the air that will help to, like if you go to Ubisoft, you'll see all their little booths that they have are obviously rooms inside rooms. So then you've got like also the protection of the air that is stopping the sound from coming outside. But yeah, I mean, like friends of mine have, I'm looking at my desk, that's why I'm looking down here. Mm-hmm. It's not difficult to build something that you can put on a desk. It just depends how noisy and how much ambient noise there is in the room you're working in. It's not a one size fits all, and most people, the vast majority of people, can find something that works for them.
Oh, great. Yes, I noticed in your group some people built like in their closets, like, mm-hmm. Yeah.
Closets are great because you can use half the closet still for clothes, because clothes are great sound absorbers, and then you put your mic in the other end of it, and sometimes you can put like a blanket over the door, like inside. I'm a big fan of the staple gun because it's quick and dirty, and if you rent an apartment, it's easier to kind of remove that and not be in trouble. So you can like blanket the door and put a cheap IKEA rug on the floor, and you're good to go. So clothes are a really great sound treatment. I know one of my best friends, her husband actually quit being a primary school teacher because she's a very famous Canadian theatre actress, and she, before the pandemic, would go to London and would go to New York and do shows, and Brian would always go with her. And so he would set up a booth in a closet in wherever they had, wherever she was billeted. And that was always the way he did it. And he replaced his income doing that, and then just stopped going on sabbatical and just said, I'm done with teaching. I'm just going to do this now. So it's very portable.
That's amazing. So how tech savvy do you have to be to do voice work from home? Like, do you have to learn software, or do you have to learn how to engineer,
You do, but only in a really minor way. So I'll give you the example of my best friend in the whole world, Jennifer. She literally, I will go to her house and she'll be like, Rail, my phone is doing a thing. Can you fix it? Like, she's the least, God love her, she's the least tech savvy person I know. And if she can do it, anybody can do it. Like, it's like, yeah, there is a learning curve. You need to learn how to do basic editing, taking out breaths, making sure that the sound wave is large enough and that it's audible. It's really not that complicated once you've got your system set up. And if even that is too much, there are people who can help you with that. But my students, and I have students who are like complete beginners, quite a few retirees who are looking for something that they've always wanted to do, and now they have the time to figure it out. And I'm not, my husband's going to be 67 this year. I'm not denigrating boomers, but if they can do it, and Jennifer can do it, and she is certainly not a boomer, anybody can do it. So yeah, obviously there are things you need to learn, but it's like driving a car. if you can learn to drive a car, you can learn to operate the software that will be your recording equipment. It's completely doable, and Google and YouTube are your friends.
So for years and years and years, and this is something Marilla is in my Coffee Break MBA group, which we learn how to hack life. We learn how to take what we know as artists and creatives and apply it to creating a living for ourselves online. Most of my adult life, as I'm sure yours, as immigrants, our parents drilled into us that you have to work so hard for your money.
Yeah.
And what we've learned since the pandemic is that actually we don't have to work so hard for our money, because most of us, those of us who worked on set, yourself and myself, we're used to working 70-hour work weeks.
Oh my God.
And now not so much. And we've been able to replace our income. So what is your average work day like?
Okay, this is going to make people really angry. So like this morning, I had 3 jobs that I had to do. I'm going to say that plus a few auditions took me an hour. So that was my work day, friends. And that earned me, that was about $700 US.
That's wonderful.
I'm so sorry, everyone. I'm so sorry. I generally, unless I'm doing audiobooks, which take they take a big chunk of your day, I don't tend to, I mean, obviously there's marketing stuff, but really that's a couple of hours a week. Don't tend to work more than 2 to 3 hours a day.
It's so good. It's so good. People don't know until they know. We didn't know until we went out there and did it. And
I never thought, I mean, like my idea of being a successful performer was I will be the lead on a TV show. Well, I was number 3 on a TV show, and it pales in comparison to the amount of money, time, everything, and sense of achievement that I get from doing what I do now. Like, I thought that was it. I thought that was the key to earning as a performer. And now I earn way more as a performer, and I don't have to do anything else. I don't have to have a job. I used to build websites. Before that, I think we both may have at some point been at the same what they used to call temp agencies.
Yes, we were.
We both used to do what in the olden days we called secretarial work, like administrative assistant work. I don't have to think about any of that now. It's like I do my voice work, and then maybe I go have a coffee with a friend, or I think about a TV show I want to write, or whatever I want to do. I can help my husband learn some software that he wants to learn. It's quite delightful, and I feel a little bit guilty about it, which is why it's part of the reason why I'm like, please, every performer, learn how to do this, because there is so much work out there. Please let me show you. People are like, why are you telling people? I'm like, because it's amazing and there's so much of it. Get some,
Yes, I agree. Like, why keep these wonderful secrets to ourselves?
I feel like this. I hate that feeling of like lack. I hate coming from a place of fear and lack. And I feel like the more you give out, the more you get back. It sounds wanky and it sounds dolphin-y, but it's like, I truly believe the more people you help, that's just going to come back to you. And we know this from television. There are always going to be butt munchers who don't do that. But it's always the people who are kind and generous that we remember. And if we're ever in a position to help, they're the first people we call on every single time.
Yes. It just makes life better. It just makes everything more peaceful and joyful and everything.
Yeah, totally.
I remember what I wanted to ask you. So, so normally you work in the booth on your own. Do you ever work remotely with audio engineers and directors?
Yeah. And that's what I mean. My timing was tremendous. I had just got Source Connect, which is a very powerful software that it basically, you need a broadband connection. So I have jerry-rigged, like you see the wire over here?
Yes.
That's my Ethernet that goes to the router upstairs that goes into my booth. So it's like a 50-foot long cable, which means I have a broadband connection in my booth. So what this piece of software does, it connects your equipment to the recording software equipment the other end, so that that audio engineer can record you. So right at the beginning of the pandemic, I was doing Assassin's Creed Valhalla, all from here, all from my little booth. I was doing some downloadable content for Watch Dogs Legion, which I was also in. I did 6 audiobooks. I've done a ton of stuff for Google for their basically how to use Google Pixel and stuff like that, all from my booth, from the comfort of my own home, without ever having to go to somebody else's studio, which during the pandemic has been just a delight. And yeah, I'm very lucky, and I'm very grateful that I got that piece of software when I did, because it just meant that I did not stop working, and in fact had my best month during the pandemic, because I set all this up and was able to work from home. And my husband didn't have to worry, because he's a performer, but he's also a lecturer, and he tends to travel for work, and we didn't have to worry about any of that. It was an absolute blessing.
Oh my God. Yeah. Sometimes I've thought, for sure, things are happening for a reason. Like, why did we figure this out right at this time? It was,
oh man, the timing was, because also I'd spent the previous 4 years building up my client base. Mm-hmm. So the work still comes in from regular clients, and then you can still pick up. There was like a wobbly time in April in 2020 when everyone was pivoting and realizing, okay, we can't get live actors. We're going to, I'm talking about commercial work, we're going to need to use stock footage and voiceover. And suddenly this whole new kind of, not a new genre, but a new way of thinking about producing content came out. And then of course, e-learning has gone off the charts because of remote learning. So yeah, it's been a little bit of a golden age, weirdly, for voice actors. So I'm just, again, it's why I'm a little bit, I hesitate to use this word, but evangelical about people trying and seeing if they like it. I'm not saying go spend $500 and then be like, that was a mistake, but there are things you can do to figure out if this might be for you. And then if you think it might be for you, you can really build yourself a decent career doing this, because we're all different. Listen to my voice, listen to your voice. Mm-hmm. Everybody has something to bring to the table. Some people might love e-learning. Some people might love animation. Some people might love explainer videos and commercial work. Like whatever it is that you find you like, there is a market for you. And all it takes is hustle, and you can build up. Like now my hustle is minimal, mm-hmm. in the way that I'm just topping up my list of clients and, you know, maybe getting rid of some of the ones that I don't particularly care for, or there's natural attrition from. So yeah, I'm not saying it's an easy thing to do, but it's incredibly exciting, and there is no lack of work.
Yes, I get that impression. There's no borders. Borders open up to you.
Yeah, like it's a global market. I have clients in Eastern Europe, Hong Kong, Australia, the UK, obviously, although they think it's hilarious that they're booking a voice actor who's in Toronto. The States, I mean, you name it, I've, got a client there. So yeah, India, Pakistan.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. I've got 12 countries in my own course.
I should like figure out all the, Belgium is a big one for me.
Oh,
basically because I got one client who then recommended me to all his friends, and I was like, thank you.
That's wonderful. I love Belgium, by the way.
There are more than 5 recording studios in Belgium, but I'm, 5 of them do use me, which is like amazing.
Oh, that's so good. We got a lot of hints about it, but do you want to fully articulate how your life changed, let's say even 1 year into doing voice work from home?
Well, I stopped worrying. For one thing, it took the neediness out of any audition that I did. I've basically stopped doing on camera now, for lots of reasons. During the pandemic, for those of you who are not involved in the entertainment industry, the way people get cast now is using self-tapes. They take an awful lot of time. They take an awful lot of lighting, makeup. learning lines, and I don't know, too old, too lazy, too like, no, I'm done. And I'm in a very privileged position to be able to say that, because I've replaced my income in television with voice work. So I literally get to sight read stuff for money. I don't have to learn anything. It's amazing. So remind me of the question, because I got overexcited.
Oh, just how your life changed 1 year in. Yeah.
So like any audition that I did, I was like, this is fun, instead of being like, I need this job. And also any voice audition that I had, because I was working so much from home, I could just go into other people's studios and have a blast. And I ended up booking so much more, because I had the confidence of knowing, yeah, I know what I'm going to do with this, just because I'm doing it every day, at least 5 days a week. I try not to work weekends. I try and work British filming hours. So I try and only work really 9 to 5, but honestly, it's more like 10 to 12.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just meant that any other stuff that came up was like, sure, it was gravy. Like any TV job I got was gravy, which is insane. Like normally that's what, as performers, we feel like is the pinnacle, the absolute, like, this is what you want. And I was like, oh, cool, I got a couple of days on, I don't know, working moms. Cool, that's fun. Like, it wasn't like, oh my God, I need this gig. It was like, cool, this is fun, whatevs. That's really blasé, but that's how it felt. It was just like, I can do this for fun, not for the money, which again, for a TV job is like, that's insane.
That is insane. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yes. I remember the mindset shift. That is,
Right.
That is huge, because it affects the rest of your life. It affects everything. The way it just makes you happier, because you don't have that anxiety in the pit of your stomach. You don't have to get out of bed like at 4 a.m. like I did to go to set.
Me too. Gross. So gross. What I used to remember is the worst thing about getting up for set is like, I used to have to, because my husband and I share a bedroom. I would have to lay out my clothes the night before, because I would be getting dressed in the dark. I can't tell you how many times I went to work with a t-shirt on back to front. I was just like, oh, screw it, it's fine. But yeah, that I don't miss the stupid early hours and the stupid late hours and the general exhaustion. And yeah, don't miss any of that.
And we can go to work in our pajama pants if we want. I love that.
I do like, sometimes if I have a gig with somebody and it's like a live session and they're in the UK and I may be up at 5, I will put pajamas on. I mean, I won't get changed, but like most of the time I do have a shower and get dressed. And I feel like, oh, I'm going to work now in my basement.
That's cool. That's cool. That's a good mindset to have, actually, because you still are, being very productive.
So professional. I'm being so professional.
So that was 1 year in. You had a mindset shift. You had a huge income increase. You had joy in your work. So what about now, 6 years later? Now, for those who don't know, and Marilla's just gone through a cancer journey or is going through it. How did that impact everything?
So, I mean, it's been an incredible job to have, because this is the other piece of it. I'm in control. I can decide whether to take a job. I can decide whether not to take a job. The flip side of that is the hustle.
Yeah.
You do have to work your tail off to find clients, but once you've got them, as long as you don't screw up, they're going to be clients for life. So when I got my diagnosis, I was actually away on an artist's retreat for 2 weeks. I'm laughing now because I feel great. So my oncologist was literally phoning me while I was on the island. It was an off-grid island on Coshlong Lake in Halliburton. And I'd gone there I'd kind of won a grant to go there and to flesh out a queer short story that I had that I wanted to make into a screenplay. So literally the day after I landed on the island, and you basically are left alone for 10 days, tremendous opportunity. It's my idea of heaven. I got the phone call from my oncologist saying, yeah, you have cancer. We're going to do surgery. We're going to take out a lymph node. And I was like, So I got to stare at the lake for 2 weeks. I was not massively productive, but luckily the people who arranged the retreat understood, and they were like, yeah, we totally get it. Just chill. If you want to get off the island, we'll come get you. Like, if you need to go home, it's fine. I was like, no, I'm going to stay here. And I really had a long time. It was a blessing and a curse. I had basically 10 days to process that diagnosis and think about how lucky I am to have a job that I can do. Literally 2 days after surgery, I was back in my booth. Wow. Now, I wasn't like massively, it's breast cancer, in case we haven't mentioned that. So like I could move pretty okay. As I say, all I have to do is read into a mic from a script. And I was like so grateful. And I thought about that a lot on the island, is like, if I had been doing any other self-employed job, I would have been in big trouble, because if you have to take time off work, I mean, yes, like all good, sensible self-employed people, I have 3 months worth of emergency funds. I have not used any of them. I haven't had to use any of them. I've been able to work enough that we have squeaked by fairly comfortably, and now I'm back to earning. Surgery was 4 weeks ago. I am back to earning exactly what I was earning before. I mean, July was a little bumpy because 2 weeks of that was spent on an island staring at the lake. And then the week back, then I had all the surgery stuff, and it was a lot. So July was a bit tight, but that's fine. And now I'm going to be having radiation next month, which will make me very, very tired. But the conversation I had with my husband and my adult child was, as long as I can be in the booth for a couple of hours a day and you guys can take care of everything else, we're going to be fine. So that's, I get teary when I think about it, but like, that is what this business has given to me, is I am lucky enough to be able to still work even when I'm going through cancer treatment, because I have built this business to the point where I can do a couple of hours of work a day that keeps a roof over our heads, and we are very comfortable. Thank you very much. So yeah, it scares me a little bit, because as I say, my husband's a writer. He's basically retired. My kid moved out. She's got her own business. But it's like, you come together when something like this happens and you're like, okay, how are we going to get through this? And financially, we haven't had to make any sacrifices. We haven't had to make any changes because, well, Princess Margaret surgeons and oncologists are incredible. So like, my recovery has been super easy and amazing. But also the type of work that I do, it's not massively physical. And even with the brain fog of anesthesia, because I had the surgery on the Friday, on the Monday, I went back into the booth. I don't have to think very hard. I just have to read stuff. So, there's not, yes, of course, there's script analysis, there's textual analysis. It's not like, but I've spent 25 years sight reading. So like, I can get away with being a bit dumb in the brain because of anesthesia and still produce. Like I actually did a job the first business day after I had my surgery. So yeah, I don't know what to tell you. I am just so endlessly grateful for having this as my gig, because it's portable. Like I can take a portable rig anywhere with me. I try not to if I go away, because I'm like, it's my holiday.
Yeah.
It's physically not massively demanding. Obviously, if I was doing hours and hours of video game barks and oh-nos, which is when you do all the death stuff, that's physically demanding, but no more than a workout. It fits around anything. If there's construction, I can do my work at night. God forbid there should be construction in my road. I could get in the car and take my portable booth and go somewhere else and record in the car. Like I'm verging on the evangelical about it, just because it has been such a godsend, and it's meant that my family has had so much less stress because the financial aspect of it has not been a burden.
later we're going to talk about what the next level you're taking it to. But right now I do want to go into your courses, because we have so many performers that follow my page, and other people who are interested in performing. You so very generously put together the program Is Voice Work from Home for You? And I love that it's a place where you give all the resources. But do you want to talk more about that program in particular?
Yeah, so 3 years ago, I'd had enough lunches and coffees with people who wanted to pick my brains to last a lifetime. And I literally couldn't fit in any more meetings with people, because I was like, this is dumb. I need to just get people to my house en masse and run this as a class, because it was taking up a lot of time. And I was like, also, maybe I want cash money instead of a bagel. I will never turn down a bagel, by the way. So I started running classes in this very room, up to 10 students. I was doing it weekly to start off with, because the demand was huge. Then it went monthly. And so what that consisted of was me laying out the process that I went through, because I did so much research. I think you and I are very similar in this respect, is that we will figure stuff out properly and then apply it. So that's what I did. And so I condensed what I had learned, what had worked, and put it into a format that I could then teach other performers. And it wasn't just performers. Like, I would say, honestly, 50-50 of my students are professional performers, and then maybe people who have done some public speaking, or they've done some, we call it AmDram, community theatre. In England, it's called amateur dramatics, which I think is a bit, judgy. My dad loves his AmDram. And so, but other people who have an interest, so many people get told, oh, you have a great voice. Great. What do I do with that? So this was a place where people could come, and I would say, this is what it is. If you think this is for you, here's how you go about setting yourself up. Here are the steps. And then to be brutally frank, I think, because we got quite noisy in here, and the sound treatment between floors in this house is not the best. And I think my husband and my kid were like, you need to stop, because every Saturday afternoon there's just scream laughing coming from your office. I was like, very good, I should put this online, that I hear you and I understand what you're saying. So luckily, again, right before the pandemic, I had a pared down version of what currently the course looks like that I put online. Again, just serendipitous timing, because it was a month before lockdown. Mm-hmm. So then people could access the course online. And then last summer, I revamped the entire course, fleshed it all out, made it much bigger. And I had a launch Labor Day weekend last year. And it's been a phenomenal success, because the point of the course is to show you, here is exactly what is involved. Then you can decide if it's for you. And so you've spent some money on the course, but you haven't spent any money on equipment. You haven't even necessarily spent any money on classes, because you've seen what it is. And then you need to decide, okay, if I want to look into this, here's the first step. I'm going to take a few classes. I'm going to do a couple of different genres, see what I like, see what the feedback is, because I'm very big on students getting feedback from their teachers. And there are teachers that I prefer, because they don't blow smoke, who will say, this is for you, or maybe you need some more training. Mm-hmm. So that's how the course is structured. And then once a month, we have our live Q&As, which I love, because a lot of my students are very, very experienced voice actors. They just had never had their own home booth. They'd never built their business from home. They'd always gone to other people's studios. So when we have our live Q&As, there is a massive wealth of experience in that group. So the community is incredible. I have a private Facebook group for my students, which is one of the joys of my life, because everybody is so supportive of each other, from absolute beginners finally buying their equipment because they've done what I've told them to, and they've taken some classes and they've got some good feedback, and they're like, okay, I think I'm ready to do this. The response from the Facebook group is massive. So it's a real, I'm very proud of it. I'm very proud of that. Yeah, go on.
I was just going to say, it's a great community. Even
Yeah.
I'm in it, even though I haven't started doing any voice work yet. I will. I'm going to get there. The community, I just like popping in and feeling the love and seeing I love the live. Sometimes when you pop on and do live, your thought that day. I love that.
Yeah, I do. I like that a lot, because something will happen in the booth, or I'll have something happen with a client and I'll be like, I need to tell people about this. And so I just do a very quick Facebook live that they can then look at whenever they want, just of something that occurred to me that isn't necessarily something I would build a whole blog post or a whole, I wouldn't like, it wouldn't be a big part of a live Q&A, but just be like, oh, here's a thing you need to maybe know. So yeah, it's very supportive. And I've had students who've like upgraded their booths, and they've like sold some of their old equipment to students who are less experienced. I've had a friend of mine just had her studio broken into and a bunch of her stuff stolen, and so a bunch of people have offered her stuff to carry her through until her insurance comes through. It's stuff like that I'm like, this community is like, it makes my heart very happy. It's very, very supportive, and there's no, there are no stupid questions. Anybody can ask a question, and people are there to support and answer the question. Because I'll have to be honest with you, a lot of the Facebook groups on Facebook, the voiceover groups on Facebook are a little bit stabby, and the older, more experienced people are very judgy. And I was like, I hate this expression, safe space, but I need a space where my students can come and feel like if they ask a question, no one's going to go, oh, don't you know that? They'll be like, oh, let me help you. And that's what we've created. So I'm very, very proud of that.
And once people join Is Voice Work From Home for You, they have access to that community for life, right?
Yeah, for life. So once you bought the course, you have access to the Q&As and the Facebook group for life. So amazing. What happens is, for a lot of people, especially during the pandemic, a lot of stage and screen actors jumped on board, got their stuff, started working, and then as they've started going back into television, they've eased off, and so they come back and forth. So there'll be times like a friend of mine has just come off a TV show, and immediately he's back in the group going, right, here's my accountability. I'm going to be doing this, this, and this. And it's like, it doesn't have to be a full-time job. I'm at the point in my life where I know that it would have to be an extraordinary on-camera opportunity to drag me back into television. That's just me. That's not everybody. I would need to be I'm putting it out there for the universe. I would need to be presenting a factual TV show. That's all I really want at this point. I didn't know that. Yeah, so just make me the presenter of some fun show. I don't know, maybe a competition style show, or it could just be me driving around in my 1983 RV. I don't care. So for me, the point of that is that for me, television is not the draw. But for other people who are still doing all of the things, this is going to be something they'll come back to. Even when I was doing the Beaverton, I would have a client at 5 a.m. before I got picked up for work to drive to Hamilton to shoot, because they were in the UK. And I was like, yeah, my voice is going to be about an octave lower, but if you're okay with that, I will record for you at 5 a.m.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that happens in the morning.
It does, because England is 5 hours ahead. Yep. So it's 10 o'clock in the morning. It's perfect for them. I'm like, hello, I'm Marilla Wex. Like, if that's good for you, I'm okay to record before my pickup, whatever. So yeah, people come back into it, and people will like, a dear friend of mine has been resituating his parents who are elderly. It's taken him 6 months, and that's his priority. And now he's ready to get back into voice work, which is why it's like, people say to me, oh, I'm so sorry, I haven't done anything yet. And I'm like, there's no time limit on this. Whenever it's right for you, it will be time for you to start looking at this. And, it's not going away anytime soon. So take your time.
So for the people, because you've helped so many people, can you tell us some of your favorite transformation stories in your students?
I don't want to name names, because it's like, you know, this is stuff that gets shared in the private Facebook group, but I've got students who have booked big animation roles, having, you know, not done that much voice work before. I've had people who've booked commercial work. Like, there have been, and this is the other thing about the community group, is like, there's so much celebration of people's success. Like, I'm always encouraging people, if something good has happened, tell us. If something bad has happened and you feel comfortable, tell us, because we're here for you. We're here to celebrate. We're here to commiserate. We're here to help you if you need it. I'm trying to think of, yeah, it's like people who, like in the pandemic, they had their kids at home. So then they had to shift when they did their auditions and stuff, but were still making money that they wouldn't have been able to make because of the pandemic, because they weren't able to go out and do like regular acting jobs. I got like so many stories of people who have replaced their Joe job. Like, think about how many servers will never go back to serving now. I feel very bad for the restaurant owners, but for my students who are now earning a decent wage, I feel very happy. So it's also the idea of flexibility, is that, you know, you can come back to this. This is what I'm saying. Like, you know, the client that I have at 5 a.m, it's going to take me 20 minutes to do that job, and then I get picked up and go to do my TV job. Like, whatever is coming, this work is flexible enough to go around that. So yeah, I have dozens of stories of students who have like left their Joe jobs, replaced their Joe jobs, considered replacing their full-time jobs, maybe gone part-time. There are ways of transitioning that make it safe and comfortable for people to do that. Yes, it's incredibly heartwarming, and it makes me really happy that I'm sharing this information. It doesn't take anything away from me, and it doesn't take anything away from the voice actors who are already working, because they wouldn't be getting those jobs anyway. Beginners are going to be taking different jobs than you, Mr. Professional person who's been around for 20 years. Calm down, you're fine. It's okay.
Yes, it feels so good to put food in people's mouths. I have to say that.
Oh God, yeah. When I hear about people who are like, yeah, I love camping. We're going camping this weekend because I got a gig, and now the whole family can go. And I'm like, I cry now. You know.
Yeah. And also, you know, this was for me, the byproduct, as I'm sure it is for you. Well, as you said, you're going to write a short story now. It frees up so much of our time to be creative and to create the other things we want to do. That is huge.
Yeah, I mean, that's my dream, is basically, I only work in the mornings. I have just bought a vintage RV motorhome, and I specifically bought it so that I could have a portable booth in the back. My plan is for 2 to 4 months of the year, drive somewhere warm and be able to work in the mornings and then write in the afternoons. So I want to explore Canada. I want to explore the states that aren't insane. I'm able to do that because my work can go with me, and I've created space so that the work that I do that brings in the money takes a small amount of time. So now, you know what it's like being in a pitch meeting for a TV show. It's, for those of you who don't, it's like, again, it's like auditioning for something. If the stakes are really high and you've put all your eggs in one basket, I know I'm mixing my metaphors, it's a horrible, stressful feeling. If you're going in, as we say in England, on a punt, you're just like, this works, this will be cool, I'm going to meet some people, meet some new producers, whatever. If you've already got that baseline income, it's all gravy. It's the sprinkles on top of a sundae. It's like, if this goes, can you imagine what my life's going to be like? I will still drive my trailer to the set. I'll do my little bit of voice work in the breaks, and I'll have a TV show. Like, that's the dream.
So, okay, one of the trends that happened before the pandemic began, but it just exploded during the pandemic, as you know, because you've recorded 6 audiobooks, is how audiobooks is the fastest growing sector in publishing. So Audiobooks have generated 1.2 billion in revenue. That was just in 2019. And adults listen to an average of 8.1 audiobooks a year. So you've narrated a few. What makes narrating audiobooks different from the other parts of the work?
So I get away with sight reading 90% of the stuff that I do. And that's because I've been an actor my entire life. So you give me something to read, I can generally do it without screwing up, unless there are medical terms, which I will look up in advance. The difference between that and audiobooks is if you're doing a factual nonfiction, I'm always mixing up TV and books. If you're doing a nonfiction, there's going to be words in there you don't know. And there'll be people's names, there'll be place names. So you need to do research. With fiction, there will be a bunch of characters you need to create. It's every actor's dream. You get to play everybody in the story, which is a hoot. So that's a different level of research. So the amount of work that it takes to prep an audiobook is substantial. And if you want to do it justice, you really need to do your homework. So it's one of the things that I love to do. But the reason that I do it is because I already have a high level of income that means I can afford to do the long form stuff. So it does take more time to prepare. And generally speaking, it pays less well if you want to go on a per word basis than other things. However, if you become people's choice for that particular author or that particular genre, you have work for life. I have now done 6 of one author's books, and she's already written 2 more, which is great. And I love them, and they make me very happy, and they are delightful. But the reason I choose them is because I have created a system for prepping my books, which means that I am the fastest narrator at the publishing company I work with. And that means that my per finished hour rate makes sense. So the way audiobook narrators get paid is they either get a flat fee or a royalty split, or they will get what is called a per finished hour rate. So however many hours the book ends up being, you get an hourly rate for that, which, unless you are incredibly accurate in the booth, can end up being not very much money for the time you've spent recording and also the prep work. So to make it work for me, I had a nightmare with the first book I did. It got nominated for an award, so the end product was great. But it took me 3 months to record, and I was also doing the editing. And I swore up and down, never again. And then I got offered the first of Iona Wishaw's detective series, which are the ones that I've done 6 of now. And I was like, I got to figure this out because I really want to do this book. So then I created a system in order to prep the books, mark up the books, so that I could basically sight read as accurately as possible for as long as possible without making mistakes. And then my students were like, teach us how you do this.
Yeah.
How do you get 85 words done in 2 hours, 85 pages done in 2 hours? And I was like, fine, I will create a course for that. So then I did my second course, which has just finished beta testing with my students and is going to get launched this Labor Day, which is how to prep audiobooks so that you maximize your time in the booth. Sorry, you minimize your time in the booth and you maximize your paycheck. So it just makes them more attractive, because some people really love the idea of it, but when they find out what's actually involved, it's like, that's a lot of work. So you need to know how to be as specific and organized as possible so that it doesn't end up taking you forever and you end up thinking, I'm never doing this again.
Oh, that's wonderful. I'm actually interested in self-publishing audiobooks. So I think it would be incredibly useful for me to build my booth and then do the audiobook course. Can you tell us more about, do you want to tell us more about the course? Do you want to tell us about how much it costs, or all of that?
Yeah, let me double check so I'm giving you the right numbers, because I just put it all up today. So I'm just gonna, we can edit this bit out.
Yeah.
So the main course, which is voiceworkfromhomeforyou.com, that one right now is $297 US. And that's the one that teaches you how to basically create a business, voiceover business from home. And if you buy that, there's a special deal on audiobookprep.com. That's the other website, audiobookprep.com. That one is 197, but that's the introductory rate, because obviously it's just been beta tested by my students.
That's wonderful. That's an incredible deal. I'm going to put this in, I'm going to put both links. Send me both. I'll put them underneath the video. I'm sure that people will want to check it out. I mean, that's incredible that you can offer that so cheaply, actually.
Well, to be fair, they probably will go up after Labor Day, because this is a relaunch. So what I'm doing is, if people are interested in learning how to do voice work from home, the audiobook course is being offered at a special price along with that, if you take both. With the audiobook course, that tends to be people who have already done some voice work, and they're looking very specifically at audiobooks. So right now, that's not being linked to the other course, but it will be eventually, because I know there are people who are like, I'd love to do audiobooks, but also I don't know how to fill the booth. So yeah, right now it's just the audiobook is a standalone course on that page, and the voice work from home also has the add-on if you want to also do the audiobook prep course. Yeah.
Oh, amazing. Okay, I'm going to just see if we have any questions. I don't know if people can hear us on Facebook and if they've typed any questions into the chat, but I'm going to check and then we'll see. No one sent me any crazy messages. So we're either not on air at all, or they've been listening intently. Let's see. And if not, we can just figure out what the questions would have been. Okay, it says we're still live. It says there are 6 comments. Okay. Great. This is a great one. Okay, I'm sure Marilla can answer this question for Olga. Is there any market for folks with accents?
Oh, hello. Yes. One of the biggest growing markets right now is they say it's a non-accent. Everything's an accent.
Yes.
So I'm trying to think how this gets described in casting breakdowns. So yes, any kind of accent at all, especially if it's not North American, is very much in demand right now, because it's a global market and more products and services are being sold globally. What a lot of production houses are looking for is something that is non-specific, is what they call it, which doesn't help you, because it's like, what does that mean? So for me, I either do it's kind of a German accent, but because I took German for many years, but it's sort of European non-specific. So it's not quite English, but it's not quite full-on German. So I do something like that. Whatever your version is of that, if you are Russian, I also do a lot of your Eastern European accents, because one of the books I read is full of Russians, and I have a lot of Latvian and Estonian friends, so I just do impressions. So yeah, anything that's kind of, and also they love Scandinavian accents. So if anybody has a Scandinavian accent that's not full on Norwegian, massively singy-songy, Icelandic is always a good one. If you can do anything that sounds like, we're not quite sure where you're from, or you can do the transatlantic thing, which I'm not very good at, because I get paid to sound like this, so I have deliberately not lost my accent while I've been in Canada. If you can do that, that's also very popular. So yeah, accents are huge right now, because they're looking for something that can be sold anywhere, and no one's quite sure where you're from. So I also use regional accents of the UK for that, because if I talk like this, it doesn't necessarily sound like I'm English, but people who don't know Coronation Street wouldn't know what that accent is. So it just sounds like a bit different. Or I'll do Scottish or Northern Irish or something that's like, oh, what is that? That's not English? I don't know. So yeah, accents are huge right now, especially culturally specific accents. Like if you are an actor of color, if you're a Black actor, like this is like, if you have any kind of, I don't like using the word ethnic, but if you have like a natural accent from your family, that's huge. Like all my actors, all my students of color, I'm like, yes, please, you will work forever. So yeah, so the answer is a big yes to that question.
By the way, because you are such an expert in regional dialects of the UK, did you ever think about putting together a course on those?
I did, but it involves, there's so much practical work involved in it, which is why I used to have private students. And it's a lot of work, because you're working one-on-one with actors to teach them how to do specific accents. And to do a course in it is, I'm not sure how that would work, especially since there is so much already on YouTube about, like, if you want to look up a regional, like if I have actors come to me and say, oh, they're asking me for a Manchester accent, I'm like, right, go away, watch all of Coronation Street on YouTube and just say what you see. Like it's yeah, I've thought about it, but it's it doesn't thrill me.
Yes. Oh, I get that. I get that for sure. You sort of said it earlier, but I'd love for you to tell us what's next for you.
Well, I mean, I had been looking for an RV because I've always been fascinated with tiny houses and I'd love to live in a tiny house, but my husband has zero interest in that. So I was like, okay, how can I realize my tiny house dreams and not ruin his life? And then I had this sort of road to Damascus moment back in January where I was like, I could get an RV and then I could just piss off to nature whenever I wanted. So then I started looking, and then I got my cancer diagnosis and I sort of stopped looking. And then idly, when I got back from the island, I was looking online and I saw the RV I'd been looking for. It's a very specific make and model, very specific layout so that I could have the booth in the back. The guy had just listed it on Kijiji. I had a long chat with him and was like, please, can I come see it? And he was like, sure thing. It all worked out. He's doing repairs on it right now. So my dream is to be able to go on the road a lot with work and just do work from the van, see Canada, see the States, because my husband travels a lot for his work. Like he teaches a lot, he lectures all over Europe and the States. So it's like, we already are fairly independent of each other. So it would be nice if we could both do exactly what we want to do without pissing the other one off.
Oh, that's great. No, I've talked to many divorced people who said that would have saved their marriage. Having space and time.
I have to say, we do very well 24 hours a day together. Don't get me wrong, but I'm a nature girl and he is an indoor boy. So it's like, I need to get my nature fix. He's like, enjoy, bye-bye.
That's great. Oh, okay. So Jacqueline, I see. Rachel asks, which voice agent do you recommend to start voice acting?
Depends where you are. You don't have to have one in the town that you live in. Like I have agents all over the world. It depends what kind of work you want to do. You need to do your research on obviously union or non-union, if that's applicable, depending on the country you're in. Doesn't matter in the UK, for example, doesn't matter in France. Many of the European countries don't have performance unions, so it's not even an issue. And it depends what genre they tend to work in. Also, some countries in the world don't even use agents. It all goes through production houses. So there is no one size fits all with this. And if you say, for example, I'm in Canada, I already negotiated with my agent that I can have more than one agent in Canada because I'm British. So I would like to have an agent in Vancouver and Montreal because they are different markets. Now, if I was Canadian, they probably wouldn't. And I mean, I am Canadian, but if I had a Canadian accent, they probably wouldn't allow that. Similarly, I can have an agent in every single state in the US. If you're in the US, it gets a bit trickier with regions and what your agent is okay with. If you're with one of the big agencies in LA or New York, they tend to ask for you can only be with them. But then you're with a big agent, so you'll probably be fine. And again, it depends what kind of work you want to do. An agent is not the be all and end all in voice work. I have to tell you this. I would say 70 to 90% of the work I get comes through my own efforts. A lot of the commercial work will come through an agent, but everything else generally comes from your own email marketing, meeting people at conferences, doing your own research, doing your own hustling. Yeah, so I would not recommend any specific agent because it's a very open market.
And you go through in so much detail in his voice work from home for you, how to hustle and exactly how to hustle. Yeah,
all the different ways you can get work and all the different, and I do say in there, like, don't be sad if you don't have an agent. It's honestly, it's great because then they're working for you on top of the work you're doing. But please don't rely on an agent for voice work unless unless you're a union person who does a lot of animation and can your agent just gets all your work for you, mazel tov. But most of us are not like that. So like for the majority of us, you can get so much work yourself. It's bonkers. So yeah, I always tell my students, don't be sad if you don't have an agent, because it's not like being an on-screen actor. And it's not like being even a theater actor, you can get away with not having an agent. But for voice work, it's like, it's not necessary depending on what kind of work you want to do. If you want to do commercial work, sure, but you can also make friends with casting directors and meet them at open mics, and then they don't even care if you have an agent because they've met you. So
yes, this is great. Is there, so Jacqueline in New Zealand says, is there a good way to determine whether your voice is best suited to commercial, educational, animation, etc.?
Yes. And the way you do that is you take some classes. And this is the first step. I always tell it's the first module of Is Voice Work From Home for You? It's called Take a Class. And even actors who have training like what I do, take a class and go see what you like. And I always use the example of, again, best friend Jen, who is not technical. Her and her husband, me and my husband, went to an open mic in Toronto where there was an animation casting director. So for me and Jen, it was fantastic because we were like, hello, I exist. Hi me. And for Derek and Michael, it was like, oh, this is going to be fun. Let's see if we like it. Jen hated it. She's very much a commercial, corporate, gorgeous kind of like girl next door voice. Doing silly voices and messing around is not her jam. It's not what she does. Me, my husband, and Derek went bananas. We we were so high off the performance when we went to the pub for dinner afterwards that Jen was like, you guys are driving me nuts. She hated it. The next month, there was a corporate e-learning, more of that kind of style, which I can do. Derek hated his life. Michael hated his life. They were like, I just want to tear my eyeballs out. Jen was like, I'm really good at this. Blah, 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 blah. So you have to try stuff out to see what you like, because you might think, oh, animation is fun. And Jen had never done it. And she's like, I'm going to try it. And she's not like a stuffy person, but it made her like, oh God, she's not an improv girl. If you're an improv human, animation is for you, because they love it when you make stuff up. Same with video games. You could just basically make stuff up and they're like, I love this. That wasn't her bag. So you need to try at least 2 genres and make them as far apart as possible. So go do an animation class, go do a corporate narration or e-learning style class. See how you feel. Like, I'm an overachiever. I do all of it. I literally have performed multiple times in every genre because I love all of it. If you find 2 or 3 that fit you, stick with that. You will find an agent and work that you will get with those genres, but until you try them, you're not going to know.
I have to say, years ago, I took Ellie Ray's animation course in Toronto. It was so much fun, and I was sweating. It was really hard work.
It's physical. Like, I say, oh, I'm able to get back in the booth after my surgery. thank God I don't have any video game work, because that is intense. Like if you're doing, which I had to do for Assassin's Creed Valhalla, I had to be on fire for 10 seconds. That's something you want to do after surgery. I'm just gonna say that, like, and I also have to tell my neighbors if I'm doing video games, we call them barks and onos. It's the things that get shouted across battlefields. It's the death scenes, it's the getting stabbed, the getting shot. They always leave those to the end of the session because they basically wreck your voice. I have to tell my neighbors I have a video game session, so if you hear screaming, I'm fine, I'm just doing acting. Yeah, that's really physical, really physical.
Those are great questions, actually, though.
Yeah, really good questions.
So much gets answered in the program, and definitely in the community as well, because it is an international community too.
That's the nice thing, is like I have students in Australasia, I have students in the UK, I have students in a few students in Germany, and obviously in Canada and the US. And so everybody's coming at it with different experiences, and so we learn about things that are happening in other countries that are really interesting, like developments and styles. Because say for demos, like the kind of video game demo that I have would not be appropriate for an LA market, because in Toronto, for places like Ubisoft, they like it very dry voice, which is no sound effects, they just want to hear you do the performance. In LA, they want the bombs going off and they want the sound effects. So it's like things like that you wouldn't necessarily know unless you had the experience of a community of global actors.
Oh my God, I just realized that I have a very old demo reel, but I put in all the sound effects.
It's not the worst thing in the world, but like this is why I listen to and I go to open mics with casting directors in Toronto, where I live, so that I know what they're looking for. And most of them are very approachable anyway. Like you can drop them a line and say, what do you suggest? Like, do I need the bells and whistles, or can I just do dry voice? So it's good to know. But again, that's to do with doing your research. It's like finding an agent. If you look online and you see an agent who you think is kosher and you like them, for goodness sake, there's always going to be a page saying how to submit. Please read that very carefully, because if you screw that up, they're not going to trust you to send you out on any audition. Because if you can't follow those instructions, they're like, bye-bye. You've just self-selected.
Yes. Okay, we have no more questions. Do you want to say one more time the link for Is Voice Work From Home for You? Yeah,
it's literally that. The course that shows you everything to do with building a business as a voice actor from home is at isvoiceworkfromhomeforyou.com.
Great.
The course that is for audiobook preparation, which is very specialized, is audiobookprep.com. So those are the two websites to go to. And
can people follow you anywhere?
Oh God, yeah, I'm Marilla Wex everywhere, and it's very sweary and very political. So if that's not your jam, I will not be offended at all. Yeah, very British, very left wing. So if that's not your bag.
This is great. Okay, thank you so much for your time, Marilla. Love you, and I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
You're living the dream, and you're going to be continuing to expand on that dream. And I'm cheering for you every step of the way.
Thanks, mate. I appreciate it.